UFC 268, DraftKings has released the salary so we can take our first look. You can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. As of right now, this card has 13 fights. There might be a fight added on later if they could get the Baghdasaryan fight worked out and get him actually fighting. For right now, we're going to focus on the 13 that are shown on DraftKings. We're going to create our first look lineup based on what we see now. Since it's our first look, we're going to start from the very top and work our way down. Iangary is making his UFC debut. There's nothing to dislike about Iangary. He's coming in with a lot of hype. Cage Warriors Welterweight Championship. Big for the division at 6'3". Clean, crisp striking technique, willing grappler, fighting out of Sanford MMA, and he's getting a layup against Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams has looked terrible. He has the Contender Series knockout over RoboCop, who tends to leave his chin up in the air, and Jordan Williams just had the right stuff that night. Outside of that, he's not looked good. He got smoked against Mickey Gall, and I think we'll see something similar. I can see him getting KO'd on the feet, or I can see him getting knocked down and then submitted by Iangary, who I think has a ton of options and doesn't need to really worry about the power coming back at him in this one. At 9,500, it's a high price tag. It's going to be hard to get to as you tinker with your lineups, but I'm going to lock him into the first look. We're just going to figure it out later. As always, we have a pricey Phil Hawes at 9,400, fighting Chris Curtis, the action man who's making his UFC debut. Phil Hawes looks great in this spot. We know he has a ton of power. Also, he's really good at using his offensive wrestling to control the pace. He has wins over Nasruddin Imavov and Kyle Dawkins. Both of those are going to age very well. Chris Curtis hasn't really fought the highest level of competition. Phil Hawes is going to be far and away the best fighter he's ever faced, and he's going to do that in his UFC debut, which I know is normally the case for people making their UFC debut. But at 185 pounds, I can think of a lot of other guys I'd rather be making my UFC debut against instead of Phil Hawes. I won't plug him into the first look just because I see some other spots that are attractive, but I don't think that Phil Hawes is a bad play. He may even be live for a finish here, and a finish early where he scores a ton of points. So Phil Hawes looks fine. I'll have some exposures of him in some of my lineups. KAMARU Usman, the champ, the welterweight GOAT, the current pound-for-pound #1, going against Colby Covington for the second time. He's starting to lap these guys. I like KAMARU Usman here. We're going to plug him into the first look. I'll probably have him in 100% of my lineups. The only way that we'll see KAMARU Usman lose is if somebody has extreme punching power and can knock him out with one blow, and I don't think we'll see Colby Covington do much of that. I think this fight plays out on the feet largely just like the first one. Stacking this fight is not a terrible option. If it gets extended into these later rounds, both of these fighters can put up good scores. I like KAMARU Usman, and we'll put him in the first look. At 9,100, you have Alex Pereira making his UFC debut. Between Iangary and Alex Pereira on this card with 2 title fights, we're getting spoiled. Pereira will forever be known as the man who knocked out Israel Adesanya. You see him pick up another knockout here. He's got a couple of advantages over Michailidis. That's how you say it. I looked it up. I know they say it differently on the broadcast, but that's how you say it. Some of the advantages that he has are 4 inches in height, 5 inches in reach, and a lifetime's worth of striking experience. I think he's going to score a first-round knockout. I see him scoring around 90 to 110 points. I love him in this spot. I don't know where the over-under is set. I haven't looked, but I would imagine it's at 1.5. Alex Pereira, we're locking him into the first look. So we're very top heavy here with this first look lineup, but I think that it's okay. There's a lot of sub 8K plays here that make a lot of sense that we'll be getting to as we go on. Rounding out the premium options at 9,000, we have Hurricane Shane Burgos. He's fighting Billy Quarantillo. Shane Burgos has fought some of the best that the UFC has to offer. Should have the boxing advantage in this one. He does throw a ton of strikes, and he's in great shape all the time, so he's not going to be getting tired. But the same thing could be said for Billy Quarantillo on the other side. Billy Quarantillo is a dog, and I think that he's going to push Shane. He's probably going to try to grapple with him. He shoots for takedowns a lot. I don't really think that Shane Burgos at 9,000 is a good play when he's got Alex Pereira within 100 salary and then KAMARU Usman within 200. At 8,900, you have the people's main event, Justin Gaethje fighting Michael Chandler. Both of these men are live for a finish, and I think whoever wins this fight probably shows up on the optimal lineup. My initial lean is Justin Gaethje. When you look at the KO losses that Michael Chandler has, it doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence. You've seen Justin Gaethje get into some wars with Michael Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier. He hasn't had any of that since. Dominated Tony Ferguson and got wrapped up in a triangle choke real quick against Khabib, but he wasn't getting destroyed and taking a lot of damage on the feet. That's the part that stands out to me the most. Justin Gaethje, with the past few fights that he's put together, isn't taking a lot of damage. And on the other side of that, Michael Chandler got knocked out earlier this year by Charles Oliveira. I think you give the chin, the cardio, and the leg kick advantage to Justin Gaethje. And honestly, the best way to target this fight is by playing both sides if you have multiple lineups. And that's even if you have maybe 10 lineups. You're going to want some Michael Chandler, some Justin Gaethje. Because are we going to be surprised if Michael Chandler knocks him out in the first round? Probably not. But would we be surprised if Justin Gaethje did that? We'd probably be even less surprised. Justin Gaethje will be in play for me, and Michael Chandler will be in play for me. Next at 8,800, you have Marlon Chito Vera. He's fighting Frankie Edgar, and at 8,800, initially I thought, okay, Marlon Vera probably wins this fight, and he probably does. But he's also a very slow starter. If Frankie Edgar can bank the first round, then you're going to have a really close competitive fight on your hands that probably goes the distance. There's also probably a little bit of recency bias, thinking that Frankie Edgar has been knocked out in the last few years by T-City, Chan Sung Jung, and Corey Sandhagen. I think that it wouldn't be fair to call him chinny after seeing him go 25 minutes and winning a fight against Pedro Munoz. Frankie Edgar I saw was coming back at around plus 145, so down at his price tag, I think he's really good value. Chito at 8,800, just, it doesn't seem like a place that I really want to get to. 8,800 with Frankie Edgar on the other side, who might be getting disrespected a little bit by the pricing here. I don't like him at 8,800. At 8,700, you have Oday Osborne. He's fighting CJ Vergara, who's making his UFC debut, and that's what you'd like if you're supporting Oday Osborne here. 8,700, it seems like it makes sense because with Oday Osborne, his fights end in the first round whether he wins or loses. I think that you need to target both sides of this. I do like the experience on the side of Oday Osborne. He was looking okay against Manal Kape before he took that heavy knee, but coming back so soon, down at 125 after getting KO'd, it seems maybe rushed because it was necessary. Sometimes you need to think about the fighter's financial well-being. Maybe he needs to go in there. Maybe he needs to fight. Now you got CJ Vergara, who's coming off a Contender Series win. He's going to get his first fight in the UFC, and I think that he'll do all right. So it's really hard to say. I'm not confident Oday Osborne at 8,700. I think Vergara is better value. I'm going to skip him for now. I think that I'll probably end up going the other way in this fight. At 8,600, you have Bobby King Green. He's fighting Al Iaquinta. They'll probably be in there jawing back and forth. It'll be a fun fight for us to watch. Not one that we're playing on Draftkings. Bobby Green has gone to decision more times than I can count. Al Iaquinta also tends to go to decision in his fights. I think we're going to see a low-scoring decision fight here that will be fun for us to watch, but not really helpful for us on DraftKings. And at 8,600, there's no way I'd be getting to Bobby Green as a favorite here. But Nasruddin Imavov at 8,500 is fighting Edmen Shahbazian, two high-level strikers going at it. Imavov does seem more willing to grapple. A lot of money has come in on Imavov. I think a lot of that has to do with how he looked in his last fight versus how Shahbazian has looked in his last two. He really looked great against Ian Heinisch, even picked up a victory, which is tough. Ian Heinisch is a tough, durable guy, so for him to get a knockout victory over him is massive. Flip side of that, Edmen Shahbazian has had a tough hand dealt to him, fighting Derek Brunson, which that loss seems to make more and more sense every time Derek Brunson fights. And he also lost to Jack Hermanson, who went 25 minutes in a competitive fight against Marvin Vettori and has been at the top of the heap for the last few years. No shame in his two losses. I do think that this will largely play out on the feet, and if these two technicians basically point fighted to a decision, I wouldn't be that surprised. I don't care for Nasruddin Imavov at 8,500. The other side of this seems more attractive to me just because of the price point. Alexa Kamer is 8,400. He's fighting UFC newcomer John Alon. Alexa Kamer hasn't looked great in the UFC. He has the loss to William Knight. He has the loss to Nick Nigamorenu. His only win is to Justin Ledet. Justin Ledet makes his own deodorant. The one thing that I will give him is that he's going into his 4th UFC fight versus John Allan, who's making his UFC debut. So the experience does help Alexa Kamer there. It's just hard for me to bet on a guy who doesn't really shoot for takedowns, doesn't show a ton of power in his hands. I'm going to be fading Alexa Kamer this week. I'll probably be fading John Allan as well, just making his UFC debut, hasn't fought the highest level of competition, a lot of question marks. I don't love this fight. I'm not going to be targeting it, at least not in the first look. At 8,200, you have Chris Bennett. He's fighting John Vellante. Let me prepare myself for all the good things I'm about to say about these men. Moving on to the next fight, we have Rose Namajunas at 8,200, and she's running it back with Zhang Weili. Now, in the first fight going into it, I went with Zhang Weili because I thought that she was just going to have the power advantage. We saw how Jessica Andrade was able to touch Rose Namajunas up in their second fight, and I figured that if she was able to do the same, eventually she'd be able to break her. However, being somebody who backed Weili as soon as the fight started, I knew we were in trouble. Rose's footwork in that fight compared to Weili's was on a whole nother level. Weili has good footwork in her own right, but Rose made her look robotic. But I could see this fight playing out as more of a close, back and forth, 25 minutes of action. I do think we're going to have some and still, but I wouldn't be surprised if Zhang Weili was able to get her title back. I still think that for all the reasons I liked her the first time around, they hold true. Weili has the power advantage, so if she's able to land early and often, Rose might be in trouble. Now we're looking at plays at 8,000 and below. We just talked about Zhang Weili, who's very live for a win here, but also if you wanted to stack up this fight, I wouldn't hate it. Both of these fighters might end up even landing more strikes than the Usman-Covington fight, especially if Usman's able to close him out early with a big strike. So if you wanted to take Usman and stack up this fight, you can do that. At 7,900, we have John Vellante. Get out of my face. At 7,800, we have John Allan fighting Alexa Kamer. At 7,800, John Allan doesn't look like a terrible play, but making his UFC debut with a lot of question marks. I think there's some other spots to get to. $7,700 Edmen Shahbazian might be one of those other spots. If this is largely a striking battle that does cater to Edmen Shahbazian's skill set, that's where he'd be most comfortable. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up picking up a win and getting back on track here. Ally at Quintet 7,600, I'm not interested. He's probably going to be low output and eat jabs the whole time. CJ Vergara at 7,500 is really interesting. I think that fight with him and Oday Osborne ends in round 1. So obviously at 7,500, CJ Vergara, if he gets the win there, is going to be the best play of the slate. I'm actually going to plug him into the first look lineup to help make the salary make sense. And also, just because I really like him in this spot, hard to trust Oday. At 7,400, you have another dog that looks like they're in a good spot. Frankie Edgar, he's probably got the wrestling advantage. If he starts hot, he can steal the first round, and I don't see Marlon Vera throwing one shot that's going to knock him dead like we have seen in the past. I'll plug him into the first look lineup as well to make the salary work, and I don't hate him at 7,400. Michael Chandler at 7,300. I don't hate this play. Michael Chandler's always live for a finish, so if you wanted to plug him in, that makes sense. I don't hate it. I'm going to stay away for now. I probably think that I'll be heavier on the Gaethje side, but you should have exposure to both sides if you can. At 7,200, Billy Q, shout out Western New York MMA. He's going to be the one that's shooting for takedowns. He's not going to get tired. He's going to fight for your money in that 15 minutes. So it looks like Billy Q will round out our first look. Obviously, we're going to tinker with this throughout the week. We'll create other lineups as well. And we'll talk about spots that we like or dislike or see if our mind changes later in the week when we do our final look. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe so that way I can bring more of this to you.